What's a civilization-ending scenario that most people aren't aware of? The Big Rip is one of the most interesting possible ways for the universe to die because it happens on scales a human could meaningfully experience. You'd go from a perfectly functional solar system in an endless void to the end of all matter in the span of a couple of months. First, the planets drift away from the star, but you could survive if you have a way of producing heat. Then the planets and the sun explode as gravity can no longer hold them together. If you're in a spaceship, you can survive for a few more minutes before your atoms are ripped apart by space itself. Big volcanic eruption. Winter for a couple of years. So very cold in winter and still snowing in summer. No food. Energy shortages. Massive refugee streams to less affected areas. Etc. Not killing all humans but certainly this civilization. Small but realistic chance. Topsoil collapse. The current shitty monocrop style of farming is slowly degrading the soil. Will eventually become a problem. Chronic wasting disease spreads from deer to people. It's caused by prions which I'm not remotely qualified to comment on, but the gist is that they are nearly impossible to destroy. Apparently they can't even be destroyed by incineration level heat. I'm certain there is someone who can elaborate on this further in a far better way. Terminal stupidity. Drowning in our own anti-intellectualism waste like Isaac Asimov warned us about in the 70s. Human apathy. Being apathetic to everything around you can be just as destructive as overtly being destructive. Topsoil loss, annual precipitation changes, heat waves, and extreme weather all coming together to fuck with food supply. Everyone acts like well-stocked grocery stores are just a given, and flip out when prices increase by 10 on non-essentials. There's little reason to suspect the next 20 years won't see significant changes and disruptions here. Gestures broadly. Putin's got terminal cancer and decides to take as much down with him as he can. Humankind invents a cheap and incredibly useful material, which is rapidly adopted and soon becomes ubiquitous, but decades later discovers that it causes infertility. As birth rates plummet below the replacement level, there is a half-hearted attempt to limit use of the material, but large segments of the population refuse to be inconvenienced or pay somewhat higher prices. Within a few generations, humans cease to exist. Millennia later, aliens discover an odd world, inhabited by giant, plastic-eating insects. We're starting to have trouble getting phosphorus, which is a major component of fertilizer. When all the bees die. Half the colonized bees in the US died in 2023. Probably all the plastic-based cognitive diseases now that microplastics are crossing the blood-brain barrier. Biodiversity collapse. I'm mostly freaked out by the fact that if there was a world civilization collapse and the machine stops, it's more than likely that we would never get it restarted again. There are not enough easily accessible materials left to build world civilization back up to the level it is today again. So if we fuck it up this time, that's it. We will be stuck in the Bronze Age until the end of all life. Not many people know that the sun is gradually getting hotter. In a few billion years it will be too hot on Earth for liquid water. A lot of people know that the sun will expand into a red giant in about 5 billion years, but Earth would long be what we consider uninhabitable by that point. The habitable zone that you hear people talk about when referring to other planets. Earth won't be in it in a couple billion years. When it's actually nearing time for the sun to die, the Earth would already be a blazing inferno of a planet. Greed. The top 1% have more money than what they know what to do with, so most of it just sits there generating more money and more money and more money. No real use for it other than buying politicians and changing regulation to keep hold of more money to generate more money. Meanwhile, most people are struggling to live. While those people are struggling to live, the billionaires aren't easing off their wealth accumulation, they're ramping up their wealth. As you can guess, this is not sustainable. You can see a slow decay in society at present, but it'll exponentially get worse. The world is going to be a different place in the next half century. Possibly back to nothing in 80 years. A new pandemic that results in widespread infertility. Antimicrobial resistance. Overprescription of antibiotics for things that don't need them has led to antibiotic-resistant superbugs, and we are not researching developing new ones as fast as we need to be. There's this really big volcano in Wyoming that's a world killer. The oxygen being reduced in the ocean, combined with overfishing,